Welcome to this week's episode of Real Talk. We're speaking to a recent return student from the class of 2018. Håkon will be joining us from Norway and sharing a bit of his experience and how he became a little famous with a very epic promposal. We'll be right back with Håkon. Welcome back to Real Talk. We're excited to have Håkon with us here today, coming from Norway. Really festive tree in the background. Håkon just got home a few months back. He is the class of 2018, having spent his year in Idaho. I totally messed that up earlier, which was super embarrassing, but Håkon's a champion. Your shirt even says champion, and was patient with my mess up, but I'm super excited to chat with you again, Håkon. You were a student ambassador and a summer ambassador, so we've spent, a whole year talking about your exchange.
Yeah, it's true.
Pretty much nonstop.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Of course, but let's always start where it started. When you decided to come on exchange, do you remember sort of like that moment when you realized, yes, I'm going to go on an exchange here?
Yeah, I do. I didn't really know about exchange years really, but then one day at my high school here in Norway, I was walking through the halls and I see this poster on the wall that says like something about going to a real American high school for a year, living the dream, opportunity of a lifetime. And I just knew right there and there, like in my bones, I was just, no, I got to do this. this is me, I right there and then.
That's amazing. I don't think I ever knew that it was a poster that you were like, yes.
Oh, yeah. And that led me to an information meeting, and then I was just so,
That's amazing. And then you found out that you were moving west, very west, all the way over to Idaho. And what was it like your first day? You get off the plane, you're living your American dream, and you meet your host family. Like, what was that experience like?
Oh, it was crazy. Like, it was so surreal. I could not believe it was happening. I remember my host family standing at the airport with like huge like posters saying "Welcome, Håkon" and everything. And I went to them and I like wasn't sure to like handshake or hug or I just ended up giving them all hugs, and they all pronounced my name wrong, which I expected.
What did they say?
Then we went home, and I was super tired, and I fell asleep in the car, which must have been really awkward for them. But yeah.
And then you moved into your new home, and I mean, I remember we talked about this with some other ambassadors of like the first night you sleep in your bed, and it's hard to realize like that is your bed. This is your home for the rest of the year. What were the first days like? You fell asleep in the car, but then you have to get settled. What was that like?
Oof. No, it was. I remember my first night there. I was just, so tired from camp and everything, and I just remember like looking in the mirror, and I was like, "What the heck am I doing?" But then like I got some sleep, and, I felt a lot better, and I was like, "Ooh, this is so cool." I'm in Idaho with my host family, and I had two host brothers, and they kind of showed me the ropes a little bit. I got to meet some friends, and we went out and did some Idaho stuff.
So like what does it even mean, like Idahoan things? What activities would you guys do?
I meant like bridge jumping and riding around in a pickup and just go mudding or whatever they call it. Just fun, crazy stuff with friends.
That's amazing. And it's super great that you had host brothers to sort of help you get acclimated, but then you had to start school, and I'm sure that Norwegian schools are very, very different than the U.S. schools. So what was your first day like? You're walking in, and all of a sudden no one.
Yeah, I remember me and my host brother walked in, and I just realized there were so many people, and I had like no idea who any of them were. I was not used to it, and we went to each of our classes, and like the teachers introduced themselves, and I was lost in the beginning. I didn't know where anything was, and I had to ask for like it was a small school, but I was just like the idiot who asked for directions everywhere, and I needed help with my locker and all those stupid lockers. Like those things would like make me late for class the first couple of weeks. It was so embarrassing, but yeah, no, I got the hang of it.
And what were your classes like? Because I think that, I mean, the locker is very challenging for even Americans because you like turn this way, turn that way. But what about classes? Once you finally made it to your classroom, what was the experience there?
No, it was like enough. Like I did not expect it to be so fun, you know. Like the teachers were just all so amazing and friendly. You could tell they were used to exchange students, and it's so easy to just talk to the neighbor sitting next to you or behind you, and you know it was just so interesting, and yeah, I loved it.
And way more like interactive and perhaps casual than what you might be used to.
Yeah,
I think that's a thing for every exchange student is the U.S. school system is far more chill.
It is.
So much so, you know, Håkon will never agree that this is his favorite story to tell, but I've heard you tell it a lot, which I think makes it one of my favorites. The school system is very relaxed and very into personal expression, including this thing called promposals. So why don't you tell them your promposal story? Well, first describe what a promposal is, and then tell them what happened.
All right. So a proposal is just this creative way of asking someone you want to go with to prom, a school dance, and you know, I knew I wanted to do something big because it was going to be my only prom ever, and I always had like this in mind that I wanted to be remembered at my high school. You know, I didn't just want to be just another exchange student. I wanted to go big, so I went like all out. I got my guitar. I learned a whole song on it, and I got a rose. And during lunch, I went up to the girl I wanted to ask, and I gave her the rose. I got someone to film it, and I had a chair and just sat down in front of her. And I just looked around, and it was like the most silent the lunchroom had ever been. And I just remember everyone having their phones up about to film it. I was like, oh crap, what have I done? And I had to go for it. So I sat there and started playing, started singing with my absolute terrible voice. And I actually finished it. And then I got like the applause of my life, and I got a hug, and I got a yes, of course. And you know, I was a legend for the rest of the day.
Dancing in the dark, with you between my arms, barefoot on the grass, listening to our favorite song. Will you be my Valentine?
That's amazing, and I love that you actually have the video of it too, so that you can always remember like that incredible moment of outrageous courage of just like, I can't even sing and I'm gonna get out there. And
Yeah.
do you think you would have done something like that before your exchange, or do you feel like coming to the US was a big part of giving you the courage to try that?
No, I highly doubt it. I would have done it before the US, anything like that. No, it was definitely the help from camp and from just like continuing stepping out of my comfort zone throughout the whole year. And when prom came, I was ready to do that, just that big step and do that big thing. And yeah, it was definitely the US.
That's so great. And I love that story. I tell that story so often because I think that it is like, that's like an American movie, right? That sort of feels like 10 Things I Hate About You, which I don't know if you guys have seen it, but you should watch it. It's a great American high school movie, just a big promposal. But the cool thing about your story, Håkon, is that you are always so positive and so happy, and you would always be like, I need to make the most of this time that I'm here because it's limited. But it doesn't mean your exchange wasn't without challenges. And I think that you faced some pretty big challenges, and one of which wasn't even going on in the US. You had challenges going on at home, but you still sort of fought through. Maybe tell us a little bit about that experience, because I think it sort of framed your exchange, right? Having to overcome these tough times.
Yeah. So around Christmas time, it was right before Christmas, I think. My mom, I usually talk to my mom on Skype every Sunday, and she had this like really bad news to tell me, and it was that my grandpa had gotten cancer again, because we thought he was cured of it, but it was back, and it was like worse than ever. And a couple months later again, she told me that, oh, he only has maybe a couple months left, and she asked me if I even wanted to come home and all of that. And but I was like, no, I'm going to finish my exchange year. Like, there's no way I'm going home. But it was pretty tough because there was nothing I could do about it. I was so far away. I couldn't be there for my family or my little brothers or my grandma. And I had to deal with that. So it's just the little things. I sent him texts. My grandpa, I sent him texts every day, sent him pictures, told him about what I did, what I got to experience. And then if I was feeling down about it, I would just make sure I wasn't alone. I would go be with my host family or with my friends, and I would find comfort in them. And so that really helped. It was just that overcoming that there was nothing I could do about it. I just had to make the best out of it.
Yeah. And I think finding your village, you do such a good job at that. You have to find people who will lift you up. If it's your host family, if it's your friends, and you went on a couple discovery tours, so you have these also groups of exchange students that I'm sure you always felt like you could lean on as like a third, fourth, and fifth family.
Yeah, those that's one of my favorite parts about exchange is you get all these new families, new affiliations. You feel connected. Like my family from Hawaii, the people I met in Boston, my host family, my class or my homeroom, my camp. There are so many people you can relate to, and you're there for each other. Yeah.
Exactly. And you, for the most part, understand exactly how you feel. Maybe not the exact circumstances, but the depth of how you feel, which is so cool. And I love, because you sent a picture to one of our WhatsApp groups that when your exchange was over and you are a camp ambassador, you went back to Norway and you were able to visit your grandpa. And I think that it was awesome to see you just fight for something you believed in and find ways to overcome the challenges, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he loved seeing your promposal video as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He said I did a good job.
Good. That's probably one of those videos that in the far future you're going to show your kids and be like, ta-da, look what I did when I was in the US.
Yeah, maybe. Probably.
But now you're back in Norway, and it's crazy how time moves so quickly. I mean, you went back after camp, so in the beginning of August, and have been just a couple months. Very honestly, what's it been like going home? How's it been?
Honestly, it's been rough. It's there's one thing the culture shock when you first come to the U.S., but in my opinion, in my experience at least, the reverse culture shock is much worse. You have to deal with that. Your exchange year is over, but it's not really. But the year itself is over, and you have to adapt back to the culture and community you were in before. And it's I don't know. I keep missing the U.S., my friends, my family, the culture there, the high school spirit, the sports. Yeah, but I'm trying to stay positive. Maybe save up some money, go travel back to the U.S. Someday, visit friends and family.
That's good. And it takes time, and it's only been a couple of months, and it's okay. I think that it's part of the challenges, whether you're on exchange or right when you come home from exchange. It almost has to be really difficult so that you appreciate the really great times and that you feel strong enough to handle any other challenges that come. So I'm really thankful that you're still obviously in the exchange community and talking to us. That's why you're chatting with us today. It's been 2.5 months, right, since the end of your exchange? 2.5 months?
Yeah, it's been 2.5 months. Yeah, and I love that I still get to do this, be part of the exchange community, the EF family. That really helps coming home. I still get to live that life a little bit.
That's amazing. And even though it's not been super long, 2.5 months, in 2.5 years from now, you'll look back and be really grateful for reverse culture shock, because how many people can have, like you said, so many families. You really gathered all of these little networks of people that I'm sure are very excited to see what Håkon does with his life. Who knows? Maybe you're going to become like a performing, an artist or something.
No, if I could sing a little better, then maybe.
Maybe you can like write songs and just like play guitar in the background.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see.
Do you remember that, so Håkon was a student ambassador, which is this leadership opportunity that we have for students on program, and there's an application to be involved, and you actually sang you played guitar in your application, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah.
With your brothers, you sang, he rewrote the lyrics to the Lazy song, and so he sat there playing his guitar singing, and his like host brothers had monkey masks on and were just like dancing around.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a big production in my host family. Like I think it was like it was the deadline or something. And I've been writing that song for the past few days, and I was like, okay, I gotta make this, but like, how do I lift it even more up? I was like, hey, like host brothers, can you help me with this? My host mom, and I got my little brother to put on this big mask, and my older brother, he was like standing behind the camera with all these posters where I've written the lyrics in big words, so I could, if I forgot, and he would like keep changing them. And it was so hard because we had so many takes where we just bursted out laughing, and we had to redo it, and but it came together in the end, and I'm pretty proud of it.
It's super good. It is really great, and I'm sure now everyone's gonna search for it on YouTube and watch it, as they should. But I think there's a million questions I'd love to ask you, but just one more is, looking back at your year, when was the time that you sort of felt like, I've made it, like this is my new home? Whether it was a moment or a week, what was that time when you just felt complete?
Oh, that's I don't know. I got so many moments, I feel like, but one of the first ones got to be, I think maybe like homecoming, around that time. The football game. I was standing on the bleachers, the student section, and it's kind of that picture you see a lot of with EF, where it's like these bleachers and a football game. It's like the sun is setting, there's lights, and there's cheerleaders, there's the football team. I was just standing in the middle there looking around, and I was like, wow, this is just in the movies, and it felt amazing.
That's awesome. And even better, you were surrounded by your friends, so it was like real people around you, and then you could go home and goof around with your brothers, which is even better too.
Yeah.
That's so great. And I think that there is many, many amazing chapters to come in your exchange story. And, we've talked about that probably too much, but I know that this is just the beginning. Your exchange year may end, but your exchange story is honestly just beginning. And we thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and hopefully we'll have you back on in a couple of years when you're doing something great and wonderful and writing more songs, or maybe not. But if any of you have questions for Håkon, you can definitely write them in the comment section or reach out to him. He has a lot of great things to share, so make sure you get in touch with him. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Real Talk, real, honest, and raw exchange stories.